everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of Boomer and Junior. I'm Boomer.
And I'm Junior.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Zachy, what's going on? What's new in your life, pal?
Well, as people who are watching and listening, I guess, can probably tell, I got a new microphone and a new camera. So hopefully we got some better sound and video quality coming in.
We
But
got
other than that, though,
upgrades.
yeah,
We got
upgrades, people,
upgrades.
upgrades, yeah.
Upgrades, baby, upgrades.
Other than that, other than watching MSU get murdered this weekend, it's been
Yeah,
pretty good overall.
good to hear. I had
How
a
are
little
you
bit of
doing,
a
Nikki?
me. I had a good little me weekend this past weekend. Got some football, got a couple naps in. Life was good. I'm turning old at the sweet old the ripe age of 25, and you know, any day of these, one of these weeks, I'm gonna retire. So, we're just getting ready for that. We're just getting ready for that. But I'm doing good, pal. Got some good football this past weekend. Got a lot of great football this past weekend. Like to listeners at home. I was setting up our weekly recap and I was like halfway through it and I just felt like there were still like a million games that we could have thrown in and I had to like stop and be like, okay, me and Zach got to figure this out together because we had a ton of action.
Yeah.
Having said that, Zach, you want to kick us off with our recap?
Yes, I do. Yeah, starting off, I could tell it was gonna be a great weekend of football with the Friday night matchup of number 24 USF at North Texas. We talked about this in last week's episode. I did a little preview on our TikTok and Instagram and stuff beforehand. Little plug there to make sure you go check those out.
Little
Um,
plug.
but yeah, this was a really close game in the first half, but you could not tell by the final score because holy score, USF 63-36 win at North Texas. So USF, we've talked about here a bit on the podcast already. They still only have one loss on the season. I believe they're 5-1 now. We're ranked number 24 going into that game, moving up in the rankings now this week. And North Texas, who was previously undefeated, now has a loss and a conference loss at that in the strong American Conference. So
Yeah,
that'll be an
dog.
interesting shakeup. We could see a rematch in the conference championship potentially for these two. I think there's a real chance that whoever wins that conference, the American, is going to get that fifth playoff bid into the CFP, which would be really exciting. So,
Dude, yeah, no, I saw the box score on this one. I wasn't watching the game, but then I saw that USF went off with four touchdowns in the third quarter. I was like, this is nuts.
they
I
had
I saw the, I
there
saw
were
the
four
final score line
touchdowns
and it was
total scored in the
ridiculous.
first 7 minutes of the third quarter.
Yeah, bonkers, bonkers. Like,
Mhm.
if you had told me USF had that firepower, I would have said you're nuts going into the season. But
Yeah,
I mean, hey,
there were
the Bulls keep moving, dude.
yeah. Other quick note for that game: eight total turnovers as well in the game.
Yeah,
Absolute chaos. It was if you like defense, you got to see that. Not as much stopping teams, but you got a ton of like picks and fumbles and stuff, as well as tons of touchdowns. It was just a wildly entertaining game, unless you were a North Texas fan, of course.
makes you question like what's in the water down in South Florida, and should we be drinking from that water? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
them and Miami too popping off. I mean, that's arguably the Miami metro area is the best football complex right now. Maybe LA is giving a run for their money, but we'll talk about that later.
I could use some of that water right now. My first pick for at least let's talk recap for last week. We had number one OSU Buckeyes going into Champaign, Illinois, taking on the Illini, coming out with the dub 34-17. Buckeyes continue to take care of business, man. Illinois continue to hurt their playoff hopes. I mean, we kind of expected this to happen at this point, and I think it's going to be interesting. Is there anyone out there that can stop them? You know what I mean? It's just it seems like they're in a league of their own, quite frankly, and the rest of the teams are kind of doing their own thing when it comes to their games and how they're playing. Man, selfishly as a Buckeye hater, I might get a lot of heat for that, but it's good. I want to see if there's any team that could match up to them. Obviously, going into this year, we thought the closest team to that was Penn State or Texas for that matter. And they've both shown that they clearly are not the teams we thought they were going to be. Buckeyes take the win on the road, continue to progress, man, continue to thrive.
Yeah, I will say I do want to give a quick shout out, and this isn't just because my mom is an Illinois grad and my grandma used to work there. However, I do want to commend Illinois for the effort. I
Yeah.
don't think many people thought that they were likely going to win this game, and obviously it wasn't super close, multi-score game to finish. However, they put up a decent fight. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
back to Michigan State, for example, in 2021. They were doing really well on the year and stuff. They beat a highly ranked Michigan
Yeah.
team, and then they dropped a game to Purdue in a crazy upset. But then when they played Ohio State, the first truly dominant elite team that year they
Yeah,
had,
man.
they got thrashed still, and Illinois did not get thrashed. They put up a pretty solid, commendable effort. So quick shout out
I
to the
mean,
Illini.
yeah, I think OSU pulled away at one point, but at the same time, I think, yeah, at least in the first couple of quarters of the game, it was a little closer than obviously that final scoreline says. But Bucks continue to roll, man. Ryan Day's got that team cooking, bro. It's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Columbus is popping off per usual.
God dang it, man. God dang it.
Moving on to what would have been the upset of the weekend.
Holy
Oh
upset.
my gosh. Washington State at number 4 Ole Miss. Ole Miss did end up getting the victory here, 24-21. But wow, this was a close one. I was following this one as it was happening. I wasn't
Same.
able to watch it. I was busy watching
Same.
another game. But this was back and forth, and I thought there was a very real chance Washington State was going to get the victory here.
Yeah, I did.
Um, yeah, Ole
I
Miss was
mean, yeah,
down 7-zip.
yeah, Ole Miss was down 7-zip coming out of that first quarter, man. Washington State was about to pull, they were about to pull something out of their butts here for this game. And like, selfishly, I'm a little disappointed. Would have loved to see the upset, especially to Ole Miss, top five ranked team. Man, oh well. Washington State still has a lot of work to do in that program. But hey, at least they're not as bad as their other Pac-12 team.
They're hanging on. I mean, they've got some wins on the year and clearly competitive. And
Yeah,
again, the crazy thing here is in like at Mississippi, right? If this was in Pullman, the home game from Washington State would have maybe made a little more sense with some voodoo of the travel and stuff. But they had the
yeah,
travel working against them, and they not only kept it close, but were leading during multiple points
yeah,
during the game. So shout out to the
yeah.
Cougars there.
Shout out the Cougars, man. Shout out Lane Kiffin and those boys, man.
Yeah.
The next game we're going to cover here is the game that I watched pretty damn close. It's the Red River rivalry. That's a mouthful to get out. Number six, Oklahoma playing the unranked Texas Longhorns in the Cotton Bowl here in Dallas. And it was the big storyline of this game is John Mateer coming back just 17 days after surgery, which I heard that I thought it was absolutely bonkers as as a fellow injured man and has had many sports injuries in his life and has spent many a year trying to rehab his injuries. I heard that 17-day return and I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, the big question was how's he gonna play? He did okay, but it was clearly apparent that he's coming off of an injury. The bigger storyline here is that Arch was truly he's truly stepping into something else here. I think the secret is that whenever his O-line gives him just a little bit more time, the kid's got some potential. The kid's got potential. He's truly a diamond in the rough, I think. And yeah, I think when it came down to it, really, Texas showed fight, man. Texas showed fight in this game. They were not favorites coming into this. I don't know if I mentioned the score or not, but it was 23-6, Texas winning. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a rough. I was looking at and I was hearing the commentary, but Oklahoma's got a tough stretch of SEC games down the road, man. Like this should have been a win for them to go into that like stretch of games. But having said that, just not their day. Just not their day. Obviously, here in Dallas in the Cotton Bowl. I had a lot of friends on both sides watching this game, and I can tell you my Longhorn friends were very happy with the result that came out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, John Mateer, like you said, that quick return from the hand injury did throw 3 interceptions, I believe I saw in the game.
Yep.
So, seemed like maybe he was nagging at him a bit. But also, elite Texas defense holding them to, single
Dude,
digit points.
six
So,
points, man.
yeah.
I,
Unfortunately, that Chipotle worker maybe should have focused on healing John Mateer's hand instead of breaking the news about him playing.
No,
But
so valid.
yeah,
I think
I was,
my only last thing I want to point out in this game is I get Mateer was a dog before he got hurt and all that fun stuff, but I guess the question I want to pose to Brett Venables and that OU like coaching staff is, do you really want to rush your star quarterback back in? I get it's the big game of the year. I get it's the one of the bigger games of your year, but at the same time, it's like this is the price you pay, right? Like this is the price you pay at the end of the day. And so I still think John Mateer's got that dog in him, but at the same time, it's like you got to give him that time to recover and get better, right? Like you got to give him time to rehab that thumb of his. But oh well, Texas take the dub.
yeah. We'll see. Yeah, that Oklahoma squad does look legit. So we'll see. Like you said, tough schedule, but I think they've got
Yeah,
what it takes to potentially pull something off. We'll see if they do it though. And
we shall
Texas
see,
keeping
man.
their hopes alive, getting the big win in the rivalry. So
We shall see, pal.
Big playoff talks. Moving on then to another SEC game. Not not as big of a rivalry, but we had Florida falling kind of to no one's surprise at number 5 Texas A&M losing 34-17. Texas A&M looking pretty good this year, undefeated on the season still. Just
That
taking care of
train's
business,
moving, dude.
looking pretty good. Mike Elko's really got that team looking solid. They may
Dogs.
not get that inevitable 8-4 record after all this year. They're really backing it up. So we'll see. I think the bigger storyline here is for Florida, and that's
Yeah.
regarding their head coaching position there. Yeah, with Billy Napier. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Seemed like he bought a little bit
James.
of job security with that Texas win, but if they lose all the rest of the games for the year, he's still probably out. So kind of up in the
Hey,
air.
man. I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit. James Franklin to Florida? Who knows? Who
It seems.
knows?
I'm not gonna lie. That seemed like a very real possibility to me. I think it was after or before the Texas win. I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, yeah. What if just like thinking about crazy weird things that would happen with James Franklin losing that one? I was like, well, is he going to
Yeah.
be around there for sure on still? And
Yeah.
yeah, dicey.
But yeah, Aggies take the win. Next game we're gonna cover here is number 8, Bama. Barely scraping by at Mizzou 27-24. Bama scraping by only by 3. Now, don't get me wrong, Simpson balled out 3 touchdowns to his name, and Mizzou truly showed out that they're legit this year. They're not scraping by. The fact that they held Alabama just to 3 says a lot. Selfishly, I would have loved to see Mizzou upset, the Tide at home, but obviously Bama being the better team, take the win, continue to thrive in the SEC on their schedule. Yeah, Kalen DeBoer's got that team still cooking, man, still pushing further and further into securing that playoff spot. And so, shout out the Tide, a win on the road, big dub for the Tide. We're gonna move on to another quick game here, probably the biggest in terms of impact in terms of a program, but it's unranked Northwestern going into Happy Valley. I think it was their homecoming game. And typically homecoming games are supposed to be washes for like the away visiting team, right? Northwestern going into Penn State and taking the win 22-21. And the first thing I wrote in my notes here is what in the Happy Valley, right? And like what and then the bigger story coming out of this wake up Sunday morning is James Franklin, 3 strikes, you are out of there, buddy boy. You are out of there, buddy boy. I think what's wild is I was looking at their schedule and the first 3 games that they won, they were really a bunch of nobodies that they won against. And then they were
And they
3
weren't winning
0.
by that much either. Like
Yeah,
I don't remember which game it was in particular, but they it was like I don't know, one of their opponents though was FCS level or whatever, and
yeah,
it was like a 1-score game going into the fourth
dude,
quarter. I was like, what's going on here?
dude. I was hearing this on something else on another sports podcast, but it's the craziest fall from grace from a program's perspective, from a head coaching perspective. They were 3-0, 3-3. You're out of there, right? Um, Man, I thought Frank will at least last through the end of the year, but at the same time, I could see how the boosters in that program were probably pretty upset with just the results. Another storyline coming out of this is that Drew Aller's done for the year. He exits the game in the fourth quarter with I'm going to say mystery injury because I still don't know what he hurt. Um, and that was the last game he played for Penn State. He can't redshirt because he's played 4 games this season, and he's played 4 years at Penn State. So he is officially done at the collegiate level. Throws up a lot of questions for his draft stock if there's any left, in my opinion. We've talked about this a few times in the pod, right? It's Drew has what it takes to be good, but when it comes down to those crunch moments, man, he just is he's such a risk and such a hazard for any offense. And so Drew Allar's done at Penn State. Moving forward the rest
Yeah.
of the year, moving forward the rest of, that athletic program's kind of like future, like there's a lot of questions to be answered, man.
hmm Yeah, for Drew Aller, I mean, he's got the physical tools. He's had them
Yeah.
since he entered Penn State, and he really just didn't develop much. I mean, there was a
No.
little bit along the way, but nowhere near as much as anyone is expecting, and that
Yeah,
potential
man.
really hasn't been met. So I think that's
Yeah.
still in him. Whether or not he's going to get the coaching he needs on an NFL team, we'll see.
I
But
s-
could
Dude,
happen. He could still have a bright future ahead of him. He's definitely gonna get a shot with the team. I'm guessing he'll get drafted still. Just might be a day 2, day 3 pick instead of a day 1 pick. So
I heard something like that he might go undrafted like free agency, man. Like completely
it's
fall out of
not
the draft.
completely out of the realm of reason, but a quarterback with those measurables
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
and there's no like red flags about him, like his personality and anything like that.
No.
He's gonna get drafted at some point, I would have to imagine. But again, it's
Yeah.
probably a day 2, day 3 thing. Yeah, and I got
Brooklyn,
to go
dude.
back to James Franklin too. I will say I have enjoyed just as much as anyone else dunking on Penn State and James Franklin's ability to, or lack of ability, therefore,
Yeah.
rather, to win the big game because it has been entertaining, I will say.
Yeah.
However, for him, when you look at his body of work there at Penn State, bringing them out from where they were after the enormous Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky scandal, to get
Uh-huh.
that program kind of, clean it up, establish it, get them to a better, more stable place and while he was never really, winning the big one, even though he was on the cusp of it last year,
So
to
close.
yeah,
So
but to
close.
get there, and he's been consistently providing well above average results. You got to respect what he's done, and I feel like he's been a great character, great figure for the university. So I felt like he earned at least the respect to be kept around till the end of the year. Even if they
Yeah,
announced that they were going to let him
I
go at the end
agree.
of the year,
I
I thought he
agree.
earned that much. But to each their own. He's going to get another job somewhere else, whether that's as a coach if he wants to, or as an announcer. I
Yeah.
wish for the best for him and for the Penn State program. This just seemed like a mutual party that needed to occur.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I got more thoughts, but we don't have time for that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Moving on to a different Big Ten matchup. Oh my gosh. Number 7 Indiana and Curt Cignetti winning on the
Oh,
road in Eugene at number 3 Oregon 30-20. And I mean, they weren't leading the
boy.
entire game, but wow, huge win for the Hoosiers. This was Cignetti's true first signature win. They had a great season last year. However, they didn't
Yeah,
really
man.
beat any truly really good or great
Juggernauts,
opponents.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
juggernauts. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And in their defense, the two teams that they played like that were the two teams that played for the national championship. So you can
Yep.
make an argument that they could have beat maybe some teams that were a little below that, but this was a
Dude.
true high level win for them, rightfully moving up to the number
Dude.
3 spot in the country in the AP poll this week. Wow.
This Indiana team scares me, man. Scares me is a good way to put it. Like,
Yeah. How do you
I,
think I feel? Michigan State's playing in Bloomington this week.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be that's not gonna be pretty. But
No, it
I
will
mean,
not.
yeah, Cignetti, there's genuine rage behind those eyes, and it's like he does not. He's got one mission. He's trying to make up for last year's early playoff round exit, and
Mm-hmm.
so golly, oh man, we're playing obviously Indiana later down the road. Like we're talking about the Boilers. It's obviously the last game of the season. I am not looking forward to that at all. I'm usually historically I've looked forward to that game because Purdue always used to actually win those games. But it doesn't matter how bad we were, we'd usually win it. But like boy oh boy, ever since last year, I and especially this year, I am terrified for what those Hoosiers have lined
Yeah,
up.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
One
man.
thing I will add on here too, we're getting a little bonus thing here, not a Boomer's bold take, but a Zach's bold take. This might be the best chance Indiana University has ever had to win a
Ever.
national championship.
I
Put
agree,
it out
man.
there. Made a little TikTok about this too, but I just looking at them play, I don't think there's a team that they can't hang with. And if they get a few bounces go
Yeah,
their
man.
way, win the game.
Especially with the quality of ball they're playing, dude.
Yeah.
Especially with the quality of ball they're playing, this is their best shot.
I'm not saying they will win the national championship, but there's a very real chance that in all because they've never won one before in football.
Yeah.
So there's a very real chance that this is the best chance that their program has ever had to win a national championship. And at this point, it seems likely Sig might get one there. So not this year necessarily, but in the future. So,
God, I'm
anyways,
thinking
that's
about
enough of
all.
me hyping up the Hoosiers.
I'm already just thinking about all my IU friends that I'm never going to hear the end of it if they win, and I don't want it. I don't want it. Move on, move on, move on. I got number 15 Michigan on the road at USC in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, Big Blue somehow had got some blue balls when they were on the road in Los Angeles, losing 31-13. USC, I know they've got a couple of really good wins under their belt, taking a couple of L's, but at the same time, I think they've got something cooking there, at least to make a run in the Big Ten. They're probably going to come out ranked, I think, by the end of the year. I'm confident in saying that they've got a really good quarterback, really good run game. Yeah, Michigan just that long flight out from Ann Arbor just couldn't do it against Trojans, man.
Even though Dave Portnoy was claiming, "Oh, USC West Coast soft football team, I respect them at a 3 out of 10." Oh wow, I'm Dave Portnoy. I know everything about
Oh,
football.
look at me, I'm Dave Portnoy.
um, but yeah, no, USC. I mean, I watched USC play in person and against, granted, not the best Michigan State football team, but in watching this year, they are definitely at least legit on offense. Very good offensively. Defense, maybe not as good per se, but not terrible necessarily. I mean, I think USC is alive for the playoff race still. I don't think they'll win the national championship, but I think they could have a shot at a playoff berth still. They
Yeah,
look like a really good squad. Lincoln Riley is holding on to his job for now, it seems. So
I
props
agree.
to
I
him
agree.
and the Trojan program for that.
I agree.
Yeah. Moving on, we got a few quick hitters here towards the end. Just some ranked teams losing to unranked teams. First off, we got number 21 Arizona State getting obliterated at Utah, 42-10. Utah
Ridiculous.
just giving them the work. I mean, this was crazy.
Clobbering
Utah
them.
similarly gave UCLA the business like this earlier in the season, but now at home, the Utes taking care of business. Not exactly that far of a road game for Arizona State. Don't really know what happened.
Yeah,
I think Kenny Dillingham's squad is out of the playoff race, unfortunately, at this point.
yeah,
Sam Levitt and company is just not recreating that same success. But
yeah. Oh well. The next big shakeup in terms of, falls from grace, unranked Colorado beating Iowa State, number 22 in the nation, 24-17. This one was an upset. I did not think Colorado had it in them. Iowa State falls to 5-2. Rocco Becht crew just can't make it happen this week. Colorado going up to 3-4 on the year. Prime time somehow pulled this one out the bag. Is it going to stay? Is it going to be consistent? I don't think so, but got the win on the week they needed to.
yeah, absolutely. And then our final game we want to review this week, we have Pitt winning on the road at Florida State 34-31. Number 25 Florida State losing.
Yeah,
Florida State now 3-3 on the year after that
I
win
called this,
over
by the way.
Alabama first in week 1. We thought Florida State was back, and now they are still winless in the ACC this year. Longest active losing streak in ACC play going back to last
Yikes.
season, which is crazy to think about. I don't know what's going on for Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell might be out of a job too. There's going to be a crazy coaching carousel going on this
Dude.
offseason that could have some really
Ooh,
big names like him, Billy Napier, James Franklin rolling around at different programs. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying Mike Norvell's out of a job, but I mean, at this point, if you're not beating a Pitt team that's been underperforming so far this year, I would say,
Yep.
if you're losing at home to them, it's not looking great for you overall for this season. So,
I will say, I called it last week. I called Pitt winning this
yeah,
one, and I'm taking that one.
yeah, as you should, as you should. All right, yeah, that wraps up this week's recap, and that brings us on to our next segment, which is our Boomer's bold take. So, Boomer, give us your bold take of the week, my guy.
Thank you, pal. Let's talk this one. And the first, hot topic of the week is obviously Penn State's coaching situation. Fresh off the press, there were a lot of names that got thrown out. You probably see on social media that like there were a bunch of head coaches, Cignetti, then Napier, like a bunch of these names got thrown out to be Penn State's new head coach. I saw a meme that was like prime time was, joked about being the next Penn State head coach. Let's all be real, that's not happening. But my bold take is around a name that got thrown for this head coaching position, and that's Matt Rule. And my bold take is that I think he'd be a terrible pick for Penn State. I get that he's got that alumni connection. He went there, I guess. I don't know, but here's my own personal take. Ever since his days at Baylor, I don't think he's really done that much. Obviously, we saw his stint in the NFL with North Carolina, didn't do anything out there. Now, granted, you might give him some grace, North Carolina, the Panthers being the Panthers, but got this stint with Nebraska last year. They're doing okay. They're doing okay this year. Personally, I think if you want to get a real taste of Matt Rule, you got to see out the rest of this year. I know they're like 5-1 overall right now, but I also think they've got a decent stretch of like difficult opponents. I think those reasons alone are why Matt Rule would be a terrible pick for Penn State. Like I said when we were talking about this, the Penn State Northwestern game, this athletic program's got a lot of questions to ask, and I touched on this last week as well. The biggest question is, and this was obviously when Franklin was still the head coach, was do we like do, can we go past the level of success we've had? I think they totally can. Just the level of recruits they've got, the level of players they've got. Penn State has the raw talent to do it. They just need the right guy up front to lead that team. And I don't think Matt Rule is that guy. And that's Boomer's Bowl take of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. This is an interesting spot for them. I feel like despite the 3 losses so far this year, they still have a decent amount of momentum as a program due to their overall recent, really good but not quite great success. So if they get the right hire in, I think they could easily kind of pick up where they left off
Oh
and,
yeah.
escalate into that national championship picture
Yeah,
potentially. Matt Rule, I'm not going to comment on whether or not I think he'd be a good pick per se. However, it does seem like it seems almost inevitable. And with the way he's answering questions in press conferences and stuff like that,
I
it
did notice
seems
that.
like he wants to go back there. Again, don't want to comment on whether or not I think it'd be
Yeah,
good or
why
not.
wouldn't he want to go there? Jump ship from Nebraska and go over to an elite Penn State stat
Yeah,
team, right?
yeah,
Get
it
rid
kind of
of
makes sense for both sides. But we'll see. I will say I definitely don't think Curt Cignetti is going to go. Curt Cignetti gives me Dan Lanning vibes, in that he's not stupid and going to mess with a good thing when he's got it. Not going to pull a Kalen DeBear and leave a program he's got going and let you get thrashed. Although Kalen
never
DeBear
know
got,
though.
got Alabama going now though, so we'll see. We'll
You
see.
never know though. Cignetti's a Pennsylvania native. Never know.
Oh,
Coached at
I didn't
IUP.
realize that. Interesting. Okay.
Pennsylvania native, coached
Okay.
at IUP D2 team a couple years ago.
Okay.
I
I did not know about that connection. That's interesting.
There is a little bit of a family connection to that.
Yeah.
And so I I wouldn't be surprised either way. Let me put it this way. If he goes, if he stays, I'm not going to be surprised.
I will say too, though, Curt Cignetti seems like the kind of guy that wants to be the person to bring a school its first national championship. He
But
seems like
can
he's
he do
got
that?
that arrogance to him. I will say too, I think Curt Cignetti is arrogant and cocky and everything like that. But I love it though. I love the energy that he brings to college football. It's
The,
beautiful.
the
I
Purdue
hate him,
grad
but
in
I
me
love him.
hates the Purdue grad in me hates every second of him. But at
Yeah,
the same time, yeah, with Sig, it's interesting. With Sig, it's interesting. But
yeah.
that's Boomer's Bowl take of the week, and we're gonna slowly segment over into our next segment, which is Junior's Jumbo Stat of the week. Junior, what's the number this week, pal?
Oh man, the number this week is 6.
Okay.
6 is the number of years that Penn State will be paying James Franklin $7 million a year to not coach their football program. Think about that for a
Oh,
second. $7 million a year to not go to work.
for
Doesn't
six
that
years,
sound nice to
man.
us right now? Wouldn't that be fun if we didn't have to go to work, get $7 million a year?
For 6 years. When we were doing this for folks at home, we were writing this down, we were building our outline. I needed to take a second to just sit back and think about that. Like, Franklin could do nothing for the next 6 years and make bank. Like, unreal.
I will say, there is one caveat to that, and that's that there is some type of a legal thing Penn State will try to use,
Of
that like
course.
if he doesn't get any type of work, that they won't pay it to him. It's somewhat like an offset thing, like they'll basically pay him the difference in his salary. So if he gets a job that pays more, they won't pay him anything, I don't think. But if he gets a job that's lower paying, so if he could go and like coach, like I don't know, like high
High
school
school.
football, whatever, if you wanted to, and get the $6.98 million a year payment difference, something crazy like that, paid to him by Penn State. So he does have to work, you know, but he's gonna
Oh,
have a pretty well secured paycheck though, nonetheless. So
just
yeah, that's crazy.
painful.
And just one little thing I want to throw on here for that. This isn't even the largest buyout in college football
Nope.
history. That still belongs to Jimbo Fisher with his total $76 million buyout, which had a lump sum at the beginning, but is getting paid out to the same year that James Franklin's buyout will end, which is 2031. Jimbo Fisher, though, getting paid $7.2 million a year. And that's been happening for a couple years already now. So James Franklin taking a page out of the Jimbo Fisher book. Wow.
Hey man, he set himself up for success, dude. He set himself up for success, dog.
That he did. That he did.
Ah, jeez, man. Move us on, Zach. I can't look at that number anymore.
Yeah.
Move us on.
All right. Yeah. We'll move on then. Yeah, to our playoff impact games of the week. Yeah, we had a good amount of options to pick from here. I'll let you take us off, Nick.
All right.
First one.
All right. Let's talk. My first playoff impact game of the week. I went with number 5 Ole Miss going into Georgia, number 9 Georgia. Big SEC matchup, right? Two top 10 ranked teams, two really, moving teams. I think at this point in the season, they've both found their grooves. They both found what works and what doesn't work for them, and they've kind of taken out what doesn't work for them. I think I think whoever comes out of this one is going to make a real statement as being the front runner in the SEC, man. Obviously, you got A&M still up there at the top right now, but at the same time, the whoever comes out of this with as the winner is going to really give them the business. I think down the road.
Yeah, because I think A&M. I mean, A&M has the win over Notre Dame. Does A&M have any other quality wins at the moment? I'm trying to recall.
They're undefeated. Can't really think of another one right now off
Yeah,
the top of my mind, but
yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, they're looking good. But yeah, I think you're right though. This will be a really big test for both these teams and kind of
yeah,
starting towards the top of the race. But yeah, moving on then, sticking in SEC territory, we got number 10 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt. This will be interesting. I think this is a good matchup. I really like that this is being played in Nashville, Vanderbilt's
yeah.
hometown. I think that'll give a little edge to balance things out a little bit. I still am not a Brian Kelly believer, so I don't really have that much faith in LSU. But
Never
still
have
got
been.
Garrett Nussmeier under center and all that jazz. But you've got Diego Pavia, the whatever you want to call him, the
A
antithesis
rock
or
star.
the rock star of college football.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
Playing there for Vandy under center. So yeah, we'll see. I think that'll be an interesting one. And two teams that are kind of at risk of being left out of the playoff, and the winner will be looking a little more secure.
I agree. I agree. That's gonna be a good matchup. We're going to shift things a little bit into Big Ten independent action. We've got number 20 USC going into South Bend playing rivals number 14 Notre Dame. I think these two teams are looking at, playoffs a little bit from the outside right now. Obviously, Notre Dame a little bit closer than USC. If USC somehow go into South Bend and get the dub, A, Notre Dame's out of the playoffs altogether, and it just moves USC's not draft stock, their playoff stock just further and further up. Notre Dame coming out of this with a win just further, keeps them on track to, try and hopefully get in that top 12. They, like we talked about it all throughout the podcast, man, Notre Dame needs to win out every single one of their games to have a shot at making that top 12. Going to be a good one in South Bend this weekend, man.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the most entertaining game to watch, at least for me personally, this upcoming weekend. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup to
I
see.
agree.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one for sure.
I agree.
Um, Moving on down, then we've got number 11 Tennessee at number 6 Alabama. This is big for both squads here. Tennessee had a loss to Georgia already on the year. Alabama, obviously, week 1 loss to Florida State. Similar thing here, kind of as some of the earlier SEC matchups we talked about with teams with one loss. Just kind of wanting to solidify your spot in the playoff picture a bit more as opposed to being more on the outskirts. Still a lot more SEC football to be played, and that'll help further solidify things. But winner of this game definitely going to be looking a lot more secure in the field, and I do think Alabama's going to take this one probably.
Yeah. I think, yeah, the Vols are going to give them the business, but I think Bama's going to have it covered
Yeah.
down in, yeah. All right. My next pick is number 23, the Utes. The Utah Utes at number 15, BYU. This should be a good one in the Big 12, shifting it a little bit away from the other conferences we talked about. Yeah, I think similar to some of the games we talked about, these are two teams looking in to the playoffs from the outside. BYU obviously looking to get closer and closer to that top 12, but Utah making a statement this past week with the win against Arizona State. Two teams that are hungry, two teams that are in a conference that can get them into the playoffs and are obviously going to try and make a push for it. If I had to pick right now, man, I think the Utes are coming with a lot of steam. They might be able to catch BYU on an off week. Who knows? But yeah, I think this one's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, Holy War is always crazy. I
Yeah,
might be retracting my statement earlier. This might be the most fun of the game of the weekend. We'll see. It should be both good ones. Hey, Michigan State's gonna get demolished at IU. I need fun games to watch. So we got Holy War action. We got USC at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I think there's gonna be two both really great games to watch.
yeah, man.
Utah at BYU. I think it maybe be a high scoring affair and definitely entertaining. So we'll
Yeah.
see which predominantly Mormon institution will win that one. Anyways, moving on to our final game of the week. We got number 7 Texas Tech at Arizona State. This one's a little interesting. Arizona State's currently unranked. They've got a couple of losses on the year. Not looking too great for them overall. Probably not going to make the playoff. Still, bowl game most likely and things like that. Number 7 Texas Tech though, undefeated on the year, 6-0.
Dude.
I do think Texas Tech will probably win this game, but Arizona State's got Sam Levitt still, who's a really great quarterback under center. Kenny Dillingham, who obviously led the team to the playoffs last year. Again, Texas Tech probably will win this game, but at Arizona State in Tempe, we'll see. There could be some chaos. I think
Who
Arizona
knows,
State's got
man?
the potential to pull it off. We'll see if they actually do it though.
Yeah, man. Texas rolling, dude. We haven't talked about that team at all this year on the podcast, but man, they're cooking out in Lubbock, man. Whatever they
Yeah,
got in that sauce out there,
yeah,
it's
they've been a
working,
little
all right.
quiet about it, but they've been cooking for sure.
They're cooking, man. They're
Yeah,
cooking.
yeah. So this
All
is
right.
one that Texas Tech, looking to kind of solidify their spot on top of the Big 12, and Arizona State is do or die here. So
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
yeah.
All right. We're gonna wrap it up or wrap up our set or our podcast this week with our usual Boomer Junior Blitz. Zachy, what do you got?
Yeah. So starting off, we got number 10 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Brian Kelly, not him. Vandy
Not
minus two and
him.
a half at home. Diego Pavia, bring me to the promised land, baby.
Absolutely. I like the pick. I like the pick. I think this could be of all weeks. This could be an upset for LSU, man. We've seen Vandy. Obviously, they're a threat. They're a threat this year. Wouldn't be obviously the biggest threat, but they're a threat. And
Mm-hmm.
to topple LSU, you got to catch them when they're not at home, right? And so I like the pick. I like the pick. For my first matchup this week that I'm going with, it's number 12 Georgia Tech at Duke. Duke's actually home favorites to win by a point and a half. And I think this is where GT crumbles. Now, they've been on fire this year, right? They've been on fire. They've been looking pretty damn
They're
good.
6-0, I think, right?
They're
I'm pretty
undefeated,
sure.
man.
Yeah.
They're undefeated, man. And like Duke's also had some good games. Now, they're not ranked by any means, but they've had some good ones. I think they barely lost to Illinois week one. Um, I could be wrong, but at the same time, I'm actually going with Duke to win this one. Technically, they're the home favorites, but we all know that Georgia Tech's obviously going to be the favorite to win this one. But I think Duke's got what it takes to pull off the upset here, man.
Yeah. I think that seems fair. Yeah, Georgia Tech barely beat Wake Forest in like double overtime, I think, a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago. So definitely
yeah,
seems like a mortal squad. So yeah.
huge.
Moving on then, number 4 Texas A&M. We got those Aggies playing at Arkansas, which I believe we talked about already. Fired their head coach last or week
A
or
few
two
weeks ago.
ago.
Yeah,
Got Bobby Petrino as the interim. I like this A&M squad over an Arkansas team that hasn't been looking great on the year and is kind of in a little bit of turnover right now. Minus 7.5 on the road. A little bit of a big number there, but I think that Marcel Reed, Mike Elko, and company are going to take care of this game for the Aggies.
yeah. I like the pick. I think that's a fair choice. I don't really have much to say about this game. I think the Ag's going to win. I'm still on upset alert for my picks this week. I'm for my next game. It's going to be number 12 Oklahoma at South Carolina. I'm actually going with South Carolina 4.5 point underdogs going to this matchup. Oklahoma's looking a little shaky, man. They're not the same Oklahoma they were before the John Mateer injury. If I was Brett Venables, I'd still be sticking with their backup quarterback. He looked pretty decent, but at the same time, if I know college football, they're going to push John Mateer to go play, and I think he's going to look shaky again if he hasn't given that hand time to rest. I'm going South Carolina 4.5 point underdogs to win this one out, man.
That's another one similar to that Vandy LSU game that seems like, oh yeah, with that home field advantage, oh baby, that could be interesting for sure.
Don't know what's going to happen, dude.
Yeah. All right, moving on to my final pick of the week. Maryland playing at UCLA in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, with UCLA being favored by 2.5 points. Now, don't get me wrong, Maryland has looked pretty solid this year. Malik Washington
Yeah,
I think I saw rated as like the number one like performing freshman in the country right now. That's Maryland's quarterback. So props to him. props to Mike Loxley and team. Maryland's been having a pretty solid season, so good for them. However, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The aura and energy in this UCLA program right now is crazy. I witnessed it firsthand. Well, through the TV firsthand this past weekend in the Michigan State game. And again, that isn't a great Michigan State squad, but when you have UCLA back at home, granted, it's not a huge home field advantage there in the Rose Bowl, but definitely better than playing in College Park.
Yeah.
Um, I think UCLA -2.5 seems obvious here. I think they're just going to outscore Maryland. Jerry Neuheisel with his glorious, glorious long blonde hair is going to bring those guys a victory.
Yeah, it feels surreal us talking about UCLA the way we are, given how we were talking about them like 3 weeks ago. But the crazy things have happened. I guess UCLA being semi-decent now is one of them, man. But like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll take a second to fully acknowledge I have fully switched sides on UCLA. I was a hater to start the year, and now I'm fully on the Jerry Neuheisel
dude,
bandwagon.
same,
Good for them.
same.
I'm happy for
Great.
them.
We love to see it. We
Yeah.
love to see it. My last pick and our last pick for Boomer Junior Blitz this week is number 16 Mizzou at Auburn. Mizzou obviously did win out against Bama, fell short by 3 this past week, but I think they've got what it takes to bounce back. Auburn's obviously a great program, but they've not been looking like the usual Auburn this year. I think Mizzou, if they lock in, go into Auburn, I think they can take care of business. They're only a point and a half in terms of favorites, but I think this could be like a 3 to 7 point win for them on the road, man. I'm going with Mizzou.
Yeah, former Penn State quarterback Bo Prabula transferred to Mizzou this offseason, and seems like he's coming out of the better end of that deal. So he's starting for a ranked SEC squad
Yeah,
that's still
man.
alive in the playoff race. So I agree. I think this seems like a pretty good opportunity for Mizzou to get a victory on the road in
Heck
SEC.
yeah, brother man. Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
All righty. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of this week's episode. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure, as always, like, subscribe, follow, rate on YouTube and Spotify. Email us questions at officialboomerandjunior@gmail.com. We're happy to answer questions, get
Yeah.
feedback. Some of the feedback was about our audio and video quality. Here we are. We're improved. We're looking better,
We're
sounding
moving.
better, and
We're
everything.
rolling.
We're listening. Yeah. So do that, and then make sure to check us out on social media. We got on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and then Facebook as well. We got some bonus content and stuff. So make sure you check that out for some fun extra info. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening,
Come
everyone.
check us out. Come check us out. See you guys next week.
All righty.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.